Hello everyone, again I would like to apologize for my absence from this channel. Um, I took a part in an international conference at where I work, and I was trying hard to deliver all the patron images, and there are so many of them. So yeah, if you follow me on Instagram and on the Facebook page, you'll see that I was keeping very active. Sadly, it took its toll on this channel, and I hope to update more regularly. Generally, a video every 3 days. So it is what it is. Yeah, and today we will have a rather bleak discussion. Well, missing information at you. I was asked to do this by Facebook friend. This is I was considering about making a separate episode on the main channel, but it is I don't think I would have anything too profound to say except just give the Orthodox position on suicide. So what is the Orthodox Christian view of the suicide? It is very strict. Generally, suicide is seen as a murder, of murdering of ourselves. It is also considered one of the greatest sins we can commit because, assuming that suicide is successful, it is one of those sins that cannot be repented of, and that is the reason why it was taken so seriously and so strictly by the church. There are many instances how suicides were in a sense punished. Now you would say, how can you punish a man who has taken his own life? Well, if you believe in afterlife and if you believe in the power of the prayer for the dead, you'll see how. Suicides generally weren't buried on Christian graveyards. They were buried outside of them, usually at crossroads. Generally, it wasn't allowed for them to be commemorated at the Divine Liturgy and for memorial services to be set for them. However, this didn't exclude personal prayer of Christians. So this wasn't a blanket. This wasn't a blanket, ban on praying for them. It was just taken that by suicide, the person has ultimately decided to reject the church and its teachings. So there's that. Now you may probably ask, and that is quite a fair question, why on earth would the church be so strict on people who have despaired so much? There are two primary reasons for this. I think first reason, and I would even call it a lesser reason, was that the person has in a way chosen to succumb to the despair. And when we see the traditional Orthodox division of passions into 8 deadly passions, which in the West was sort of turned into 7 deadly sins, 2 of these are based on despair. That is despondency and sorrow. Well, there is a difference between 2 of these. Basically, despondency is practically seen as depression, constant displeasure at one's state of life, at one's lot in life, lack of motivation. Whereas sorrow is classical sorrow, anxiety, constant worry, crying, and so on. Of course, other passions can play a role. I want to just go into this analysis because it is redundant, but yeah, if you're a greedy man and you lose all of your belongings, well, yeah, such settings are known to occur. However, the primary reason why the church has taken such a strict stance against suicide specifically, and not with other kinds of sins, as it were, was because at the time when religion is the primary way of suicide prevention, because you don't have psychology, psychiatry, you don't have therapists and so on, the sole thing that can practically prevent you from killing yourself was Christian teaching. So if you were denied Christian burial, if you were denied prayers, if you were, so to speak, basically if you were assured of going to hell if you kill yourself, that was a great deterrent for you not to kill yourself. Of course, it isn't a, so to speak, foolproof way. We may, as I said, consider it maybe even too strict, especially because today we generally tend to pity suicides. We don't see them as these great sinners who deserve all these punishments, and again, they don't. But you needed to have something that will prevent people from killing themselves, and the church has taken this route. In modern times, generally, because we now have more advanced view of how the mind of a suicide works, the church is much more lenient in this. Again, in most countries you don't have Christian, exclusively Christian cemeteries per se, but yeah, generally a priest may attend or he may not too, but generally bishops will allow for the suicide to be commemorated at the Divine Liturgy. This was my experience. A friend of mine killed himself in 2009. To this day, we don't know why he did it. We assume that he was simply depressed because his life was basically going nowhere, and I've contacted the bishop, and he has given us the permission to commemorate him at the Divine Liturgy, and I assume that is the general way how majority of bishops would react to such a tragedy. I like to mention a vision that one Serbian priest has had, because even though there is sort of a custom, so this isn't a dogma, for people, not to commemorate the suicides, and some people take this too far, as in not to pray for them at all. Even though, for example, in the Ecatist for the repose of all the departed, suicides are directly mentioned. So anyway, this priest had a vision of him being in Hades, that is the abode of the dead in Orthodox theology, where he witnessed the state of the suicides, and he said that we should pray for them as much as possible, because despair that leads you to suicide does not leave you once you die, and that is why suicide is spiritually so dangerous. I hope that none of you has experienced a suicide of your loved ones. This friend that killed himself, we weren't particularly close, but if it affected me the way it did, I can only imagine what would happen if he to his best friends, and I don't even want to mention his family. When I went to his grave a year after he died, I noticed his father on the tombstone as well, and I know maybe his father would have died if he didn't kill himself, but this has definitely expedited the process, So remember, whatever happens, there are people who will listen to you. There are ways to get out of the bleakest spots, whatever, I believe, the suicide prevention hotline in the description, just in the case you know some of you guys are struggling or know somebody who's struggling, God forbid. And you know, pray, talk to people, get as much as help as you need. You know, if you're shy or something, people are there to listen. There are people who listen. I apologize if this video is sort of all over the place. Again, I'm not an expert on this subject, so just sharing how did the church deal with this issue. That is all. Bye.